Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam. I am joined in the room today with my two dogs, so if I start making funny movements, it's because I'm stroking a dog below me here. So what I'm aiming to do for myself is improve my nutrition and my lifestyle. Now, I am a nutritional therapist, so I've done a heck of a lot already, but like many people, I fall foul of going back to old habits. Today we're going to look at breakfast, and for those of you who are interested in this, particularly busy women, I'm doing this to help me, but also women who are also in their mid-years who are struggling to actually look after themselves because of the demands that they have around them. So for those busy women, I will put the timeline in the description, so if you want to jump to a particular breakfast to have a look at it, it'll be there for you. But for those of you who have the time, I'm going to give you a bit of a preamble on why I'm doing this. So as I say, I keep going back to old habits. Now, as a practitioner, I always recommend my clients to have at least 3 options for breakfast. And there's a couple of reasons for this, really. First is that you can get a good variety of nutrients if you change it up a bit. The second one is if we continually eat the same thing day after day after day, then we can become intolerant to certain foods, and that's not ideal. Now, personally, I want to really improve my options to have the variety, but also I want to focus a bit more on seasonal breakfasts as well. So I want to perhaps go through this again in a couple of months and change it. But some of these options I've gone for, they're all fairly quick and easy, actually. A couple take a bit of preparation. But they all offer me something a bit different, and a couple of them, as I say, I can use seasonal produce to actually change it up, so I can do the same thing but just change the actual basic ingredient. So my go-to in the winter is a mixed berry porridge, and I do that because I have frozen berries in my freezer, and it's so quick and easy, and I don't think about it. I will show you that one. In the summer, I just drop the oats. I don't have many oats anyway, but I drop the oats in the summer because I don't feel I need that bulk, whereas in the winter, I feel as though I need that little extra. I may not really, but you know, it's one of my little habits that I need to break. So today I'm going to have the porridge, but in a moment I'm going to make an omelette. And it's actually going to be for my lunch today because today didn't go according to plan. I was going to make it for breakfast, but you know, had car trouble, so I'm doing it for lunch instead. Now here I can use seasonal veg, and I tend to cook extra vegetables the night before. So if I'm steaming veg, I'll probably put a bit extra in the steamer, so with the plan that I'll have it in an omelette for breakfast or even for lunch, either way. I do a variation on this as well. I like to make a frittata, and I can use steamed veg, but I tend to do roasted veg. So when I've got the oven on, I tend to put a pan in with mixed veg and roast them off and have that ready. And I make a frittata that lasts me for 3 meals. So I use 6 eggs. And that's really good because, again, you can have that for breakfast, you can have it for lunch. And then my final one, because I've got 4 options I've decided on, is my breakfast blini. And again, I make that ahead. So I make the blinis ahead, but I make them the size of a small saucer, probably more the size of an American pancake. And I can pack them up in greaseproof paper, put them in a Ziploc bag in the freezer, and just take 2 out at a time, and they defrost very quickly overnight in the fridge. When the range is on, which is behind me, then I'll often just pop them in the range for a few minutes just to warm them up, or I just have them as they are and have a different topping on top. So I'll go through those as well. So it's quite simple, and that's the whole idea. I won't do it unless it's quick, easy and simple. And I do want the nutrition to be there, so I've really focused on that sort of mix. Seasonal will come in really with the vegetables that I use, and other ingredients that I might have, you know, smoked salmon, poached salmon, bit of smoked mackerel, maybe some cold chicken, or, you know, feta cheese, that kind of thing. So I will sort of swap it up with those, and also the herbs that might be available in the garden. So that's what I'm aiming to do, is to keep going with this variation and not just have porridge every day. So let's get started with the omelette, and then I'll talk you through the other options as well. Well, I've got the pan on the heat on high at the moment. I've got a green chef pan here which has a ceramic coating, and it does take a little time for this one to warm up, but once it's got the heat in it, it holds it. So I'll turn it down any minute actually. Now I'm going to throw my veggies in. I've got them just in an old jam jar to store in the fridge, and I will use a little bit of coconut oil in the bottom. I don't need too much because it's quite a nice sort of, it's not non-stick, it's not a Teflon coating, but it has quite a nice sort of non-stick kind of coating. But a little bit of oil always helps. We'll just melt that. It's coming on. I have also picked a few leaves of spinach from the garden that I've been growing. So I'm just going to quickly chop them up. Go. Right, I think that's coming on. Just turn it up again, I think. Right, I'm going to put my veggies in. Just tip them in. I overcooked some of them. I'll get rid of that bit. A bit of burnt. I've got leek, courgette and carrot in here, so that's what I added in the other day, and I actually roasted these ones off actually. So I'm going to warm those through. And whilst that's going on, I'm going to just crack and whisk 2 eggs. As you know, this is so simple to do. And then I will add a little bit of Celtic salt and some black pepper. Right, I can just now hear the vegetables just beginning to warm, so I'll give them a bit of a stir. So I avoid Teflon pans because the Teflon can actually appear in the food. It can transfer, the chemicals from that can transfer to food, and then when we eat the food, that can go into our bodies. So I will talk about cooking materials another time, but I like to use the ceramic pan at the moment, or stainless steel, glass, etc. But it does take a bit longer to warm up, if I'm honest. But as I say, once it's got the heat, it's really good. That's coming on. All right, I'm going to throw in my spinach. What's also nice is adding in fresh herbs or spices, whatever you fancy. But I like spices and herbs as well because they really do hold a good amount of nutrition in them, and they're quite compact and dense. If you want to put cayenne in, it helps modulate your blood sugar, apparently, which is good if you have blood sugar issues. Right, that's coming on nicely. I can see my spinach is wilting a little bit. And whilst that's happening, I've got a little bit of coleslaw I have left from yesterday, so I'm going to put that on the plate as I'm having this for lunch. But this sort of lunch or breakfast would be nice with sauerkraut. And you can make your own or you can buy it. I bought one from, I think it was from Morrison's by Baxter's, and I didn't know they did it. And it's not bad, it's just got the basic ingredients in it. So you can just buy that if you don't want to make it, so that's quicker and easier. But that's also good, helps support your gut bacteria. And it's really flavoursome as well. So my coleslaw doesn't look so good on the second day, but I've used red cabbage, carrot, red onion. I don't think I put garlic in this one. Then I've just done a dressing with balsamic vinegar and olive oil, and I added in a little bit of mascarpone cheese because I had it, and salt and pepper. So I also put a few walnuts in to just jazz it up a little bit. Anyway, this is coming on. And I'm going now to just add the egg, as you would. So it's just straightforward omelette, nothing special about this at all. In fact, I'll turn it down. Well, it's taking its time, and hopefully it won't stick. I think it's coming along way okay. To be honest with you, I don't really mind if it does stick. I often just make it into more of a hash by just stirring it up because that is quicker. So let's do that. I'll just show you. So you go nice omelette, or just as I'm doing now, into a bit of a hash. And I can see my battery's about to run out, so I'm going to just serve this up. And there we are. That's my lunch today. Lots of vegetables, an egg. So, bon appetit. So with berry porridge, I use around about 1 cup of mixed berries, frozen berries. Now I don't usually measure them, but I did just so I had an idea for this video. I then have about 1/4 cup of whole oats. And then on top of that, I like to sprinkle on some cinnamon, sometimes ginger, but cinnamon's like cayenne pepper. It can help us regulate our blood sugar and keep it more even. So it also adds flavour, of course, so I like to add that. So I'm just going to add in a splash of water. That's just really because the oats will soak up a lot of the juice from the fruit. And then I put it on a low heat to simmer until the fruits really have basically defrosted, and in that time the oats cook quite nicely as well. So I stir the porridge from time to time to make sure it's not sticking. If it does stick, I take it off the hob and put the lid on, and then it just comes away very easily. So you could use a single berry. I like mixed berries. You can use apples, pears. I use fresh fruit in the autumn. But I do find the convenience of having frozen fruits in my freezer, it really does help, because some things like blueberries can go off quite quickly. So here I'm serving up and scraping the residue off the bottom. It has stuck a little bit, but not too bad. And just a little bit of soaking, and that comes off very easily. So it's quite an easy pan to clean. It's just a stainless steel pan. So now I'm going to add my toppings. So I like to have a teaspoon or dessert spoon of flax seeds stirred through. I add them after I've heated the actual berries and porridge, because I don't want to ruin the nutrient value, the potential of those seeds. They can degrade with heat, so I add them in afterwards. And then a dollop of yogurt. I like Greek yogurt, organic when I can, but any good quality grass-fed, preferably Greek yogurt, would be fine. And then I like to sprinkle on some nuts and seeds. So I'm doing a few Brazil nuts here today and a few walnuts on top. And that's it. That's as simple as it is, and you can vary that to suit your own taste. And now for the breakfast blinis. So I'm getting together some milk, 150 mils of milk of your choice. Could be dairy, could be another. Some eggs, or just one egg actually, and some buckwheat flour. Now, I've got some Dove's Farm buckwheat flour here, and I use 90 grams. Now, sometimes I buy the groats and grind them myself. It just depends what I have available. I just want to mention as well, none of this video is sponsored, or there's no advertising. So any product I mention is purely because I use it. So 90 grams of the buckwheat flour. To make, in fact, I can't remember how many blinis I would make if they were normal size, but I can make probably about 8 breakfast blinis with this. And then a teaspoon of baking powder. Again, I'm using Dove's Farm gluten-free here. And then I'm going to just give it a little mix with my whisk. And then I quite simply take 1 egg, and I again prefer organic, free range. And just I crack that in. And then it's a matter of whisking that into the flour and baking powder mix. And as I go along, I add in a little bit of the milk. Now, when it comes to milk, I've made this with dairy milk. I've made it with coconut milk, almond milk. I can't say I've really noticed a big difference between them. I haven't been that observant, maybe, but I find they all work. So if you are avoiding dairy, then you can use an alternative milk. There we go, you can see a bit closer up. It is quite gloopy and sticks to the whisk, but it will come good. Doesn't take too long either. This is, I suppose you could do it with a whisk, an electric whisk, rather than a hand whisk. I rather like the hand whisk. That's quite easy to clean then as well. And it's all about cleaning, making life easy really, isn't it, as well. So it's coming on, and I'm going to not quite add the rest, so I will do in a moment. And then I'll show you the consistency. So it's really like, I suppose, a double cream consistency. So it pours, but it's not really runny. So it's coming together now. Hopefully I can show you a little bit there. It's more like a cream consistency. So just want to get all the bits whisked in. There we go. And now I'm putting a pan on to heat. I use either coconut oil or butter generally to cook these, and it just depends, you know, what I have and how I feel like, you know, what I feel like. So I put in some coconut oil, and it needs to be coating the base of the pan quite well. And I find, again, with this pan, it takes time to heat up. And so my first blini can take quite a bit of time, and the subsequent ones are much quicker. I also sometimes find when I make small blinis that my first blini is like my first pancake. It's not so good, so that's the cook's treat, so I snaffle that one. Now, as this starts to cook, you can see bubbles start to appear on the surface, so you know the heat's coming through. I'm just turning the heat down here a bit, but the first one does take a bit of time, and I try and just ease it to see how it's doing, because I like to be able to shake the pan and see the blini move across the pan quite easily. It's not always that easy, and I like to also use a knife just to lift it so I can see how it's doing. When they start to cook really quickly. So I think you can see the bubbles on the top. When I shake it, I start to fill the bubbles back in, but then it's going to be ready for turning. Almost. Not quite. I don't flip them. They stick a bit too much for flipping, but I like to use a wooden spatula, and I am using a metal knife, of course, here, but I'm very gentle so I don't damage the pan. And you see that lovely golden colour? That's what we're looking for. A nice golden brown on the cooked side. So once it's flipped, it tends to take less time on the second side, which is good news. And as I say, subsequent ones take much less time. Now, if you had a flatter pan, this pan is more like a wok shape, so I can really only get one of these in at one time. When I'm doing small blinis, I can get 4 or 5 in this pan, but these breakfast blinis, which are bigger, I can only get 1 at a time. But if you've got a larger pan, you could do more than 1 at once, which would be much quicker. And there we go, that's the first one done. So I'm not going to show you all of these being cooked because that would be like watching paint dry, but we will just start the second one off. And as I say, these are so simple. Once they're cool, I wrap them in a parchment paper or greaseproof paper, usually in 2s, and I pop them in the freezer so I can take them out when I want them. Usually the night before. I have done them on the day. Quite often I'll go out early, come back and then have breakfast. So in that time they do defrost if they're left on the counter. So they are quite an easy breakfast option. You then have to decide on the topping, and I'll show you the topping I chose for this one in a moment. But yeah, I'm trying to, I've got a little bit of the batter on the spatula because I'm too eager. But you can see the bubbles again on the top. Give it a shake. It's still a little bit stuck. I can feel it moving though. You could actually add herbs into this. There's no seasoning because the flavour comes from the topping, but there's no reason why you can't add in some salt and pepper if you wanted, or some chopped herbs would be quite nice. Maybe some chilli. I've not tried that yet, so that's something to try for the future. And then they can accompany any meal really that you like. So not just for breakfast. They're good actually as a takeaway lunch or breakfast. Quite easy to pack up and take with you. And that's actually useful for people who are very busy and don't have time to actually eat the breakfast at home, but might eat it at their desk. It's not ideal, but it's real life. There we go. So this second one's looking quite good, and I think it's almost ready to come out. It's moving around very easily. Yep, there we go. And that's 2. And there we go, that's the reality. A little bit of a mess there, and that's my little perk left over. And here's my finished product. I had scrambled eggs with smoked salmon and avocado, which was delicious. So for the frittata, I use a mix of roasted veg. So here I've got some peppers, courgette, onion and carrot. And here they are after cooking. And once they've cooked, I then put them into a grease dish, which is probably about half the size of the roasting dish, and then add 6 eggs. So here it is cooked. It took about 25 minutes in the oven to cook with the egg. And here is the final result, 3 beautiful slices for breakfast or for lunch. Fabulous with some sauerkraut or with a side salad. Ever so easy and a good takeaway lunch.